Thanks, Vamsi sir, for joining us today. Let's start with the introduction. I will call upon Rohit Auti, CEO of Magic, to introduce Magic. Hey Rohit, over to you.
Sure. So thanks everyone for joining. Honestly speaking, Hesa or Vamsi was recommended to us by our founder director Ashish Garde, and till that time I had no clue what these guys were doing. And when I went through their profile, I found it very interesting because it ties very closely with the kind of work we have been doing so far. So I'll give everyone a quick introduction of Magic. GH Raisoni knows us really, really well. I'm sure Vamsi and his team is also aware of us, so I won't spend more than a minute on that. So we are a business incubator and accelerator based in Aurangabad. We were founded in 2018 formally, but we have been in operations since 2015. A unique thing about Magic is we are India's first regional industry association led business incubator and accelerator. So, like all of us are aware, most of the incubators are part of academic institutions, and this was the first one that was institutionalized by a industry association, and that made a huge difference in the way we operated because it is led, managed and mentored by industry leaders. So the focus here is very different. Uh, just to give you an impact that we have been able to achieve so far, we have supported over 1,000 startups for idea validation and mentoring, which was always pro bono. We have incubated around 30 startups. Around six of our startups have registered patents and they are doing extremely well. From a job creation perspective, so far we have created more than 60 jobs and we are looking for more. From a sectoral perspective, we have worked with startups across 12 sectors and they are pretty diverse because that is the kind of mentors and board of directors we have, so which enables us to work really well with them. Uh, from an engagement perspective, in the last 3 to 4 years, we have been engaged with around 4,000 youths, students, startups, innovators, and ecosystem partners who have helped us get to where we are today. Our goal is to drive innovation and entrepreneurship in tier 2 and tier 3 places where access or awareness about startups or innovations is very low. In fact, three of our star startups are all grassroots innovators. I mean, they come from a very humble background and they are doing some excellent work today. We are sector agnostic in principle, and we are also agnostic from the point of view of intaking startups. So we have no restrictions on age, gender, education background, or sector or anything else. So just to give you an example, just excuse me guys, right? We have some renovation work going on. Just one sec. So the startups that have worked with us so far, from an age perspective, they range from 16 years to 55 years. And from an education perspective, they range from 8th grade pass to PhDs. So we have been dealing with everyone and we want to do more. And that's why working with institutes like GH Raisoni and entrepreneurs like Vamsi makes a lot of sense. So with that, I'll take a pause, Yogesh, hand over to you to take the proceedings forward.
Hey, that's really great. Thanks, Rohit, for introducing Magic. In it's like this interview series planned in the collaboration with GIS Raisoni. So I hand over to Preeti ma'am just to speak some words about GS Raisoni and introduce to all of our guests.
Rahul, please carry on the proceedings. Rahul sir.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Very good afternoon, everybody. And before I can invite Director Madam. I would take this opportunity to share a small introduction about who we are as an institutional group. So, since the establishment of its first institution in 1998, the Raisoni Group of Institution, which is popularly known as the RGI, has grown as Central India's leading educational network. RGI began with one engineering college and has come to a point where it has 25 institutions that are affiliated with many universities across the country. We have grown to a robust student base of 23,000 with around 1,300 faculty members and around 1,000 classrooms, more than 1,400 support staff, successfully operating into various regions of Maharashtra and outside Maharashtra. So we have our head office at Nagpur, then we have our campus in Amravati, Jalgaon, Pune, Ahmednagar, and Raipur. We are extremely proud to share this with everybody here that we have now our own university as well in the state of Maharashtra in Amravati and the states of Madhya Pradesh, Chhindwara. Let us now know a little bit about GHRIBM, my place where I work. So our GHRIBM, that is GH Raison Institute of Business Management, Jalgaon, is a privileged autonomous institute affiliated to the prestigious Kavyatri Bahinabai Chaudhary North Maharashtra University with the recommendations from AICTE and offering flagship courses like MBA, MBM, MCA, Integrated MCA, BBA, BCA, and BTech. Responding to the unprecedented changes followed and forced rather by pandemic, we have also started off with engineering and management streams in data sciences, artificial intelligence, and business analytics. We are the youngest institute in the entire North Maharashtra region to have received the status of an autonomous institute. We also hold the prestige of being associated with the leading edtech companies like Upgrad, Y Center New York, Scientific Jugaad Funda, and MAGIC, of course, Marathwada Accelerator for Growth and Incubator Council. The man, Mr. Rohit Aute himself, is here. And we have done all these things with an intention and pure ambition to enhance the employability of our students, even in these unprecedented times. Ladies and gentlemen, we at GHRIBM are fortunate enough to be growing both as an institute and as capable professionals under the able leadership of our Honorable Director Madam, Dr. Preeti Agarwal Madam. Apart from being one of the most coveted and decorated academician in the entire region of North Maharashtra University, she is a visionary leader with an absolute humble attitude. She has it all to make her be the favorite or her of her team as a friend, philosopher, and guide. So, without any further ado, may I have the privilege of inviting the director of GHRIBM, Dr. Preeti Agarwal Madam, to.
Rahul, you are going to introduce Vamsi sir after that. Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
This is how we have planned.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Rahul. So once again, it's my proud privilege to welcome you, heartily welcome you, Vamsi sir, on the board. And it's right, I consider it a golden opportunity for the institution to witness an interactive session from an entrepreneur like you, who is having his own startup. And Vamsi sir, let me share with you that Magic as the success story of Magic and what Magic is doing as rightly shared by Rohit sir. And about the GH Raisoni institution, Rahul has already spoke. So Magic and Raisoni, we work on the same principle, same thought process. Like we work on employability skills of the students. And when I talk about employability skill, we are not focusing placing students in the industry. We want more job creators than the job seekers, and that is our endeavor. And we have a innovation incubation cell and the ecosystem, right ecosystem on the campus. It will be a great pleasure, Vamsi sir, if we can receive you on the campus and have an offline session as well. So looking forward for a very interactive session today.
Hey, that's great. Thanks, Rahul, for that wonderful introduction. Thanks, ma'am, for taking it forward. So now I will introduce Hesa. We have a 1 minute video about Hesa. So I will just share that screen. Just give me a minute. Just pin me like screen is visible or not. Huh? Rohit, is it there?
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah, great.
It's visible now.
So that was a wonderful video. Thanks for sharing, Vamsi. So now I will hand over the session to Rohit to take it forward.
Thanks, Yogesh. Vamsi, thanks a lot for joining. We have not spoken in person earlier, but now we have the opportunity. And the good thing is that you are on the hot seat. I'm going to ask the questions. So going to Vamsi, so can we have a brief background of who you are, where you come from? I mean,
Sir, sorry I'm interrupting, but then may I have the
uh, Rahul, I think you are cracking.
I was just seeking your permission. I wanted to take this privilege to introduce.
Yes, yes, please, absolutely.
All right. So, Vamsi sir, please excuse me if I miss out on something, but I'll try my best to justify your grandeur that you carry. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Vamsi Udayagiri, founder and CEO of Hesa, that small audiovisual that we have just seen. Mr. Vamsi has always been highly fascinated with rural value chain, which is complemented by his years of supply chain and aftermarket supply chain experience and creating sustainable rural businesses. When the coronavirus pandemic hit the country, Mr. Vamsi went against the tide and the well-meaning advice of slowing down the full-scale launch of Hesa's operation. The thought about how people who were homebound sustain themselves is if they don't get necessities and how farmers will be able to sell their produce during the lockdown was his motivation behind taking this stand. He has been pulling in all his experience and expertise and the understanding of the rural markets, which has led to start expanding HESA's rural outreach aggressively. And rest, as everybody knows, is history. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Vamsi Upadhyay. Sir, it is all yours now.
Thank you. I thank Rohit sir, Rahul, Yogesh, principal ma'am, everyone. Sorry if I missed few names. I'm very happy to be here. Just before I introduce myself, I just wanted to share something. I never feel tensed when I'm talking to my customers or when talking to my investors. But when it comes to talking to academicians and students especially, that's when I really kind of little get tensed. So that's one part of it. Second thing is I come from an academic family. My father is a psychology professor. And mostly in my family, everybody is into academics. I'm the odd man out, but maybe lucky enough to be on this side of it where I'm talking to academics. So happy to be here. With this, let me introduce myself. I'm Vamsi Udayagiri, founder and CEO of Hesa. As Rahul said, I come with 10 years of supply chain, aftermarket supply chain experience, and 10 years of working in deep rural. So that's where I have close to 20 years of experience before I started what Hesa is today. A quick background about myself, more elaborative. I'm fortunate enough to be born in an educational family from Vijayanagaram, in a district in Andhra Pradesh. Right from the very beginning, my family has been very supportive. They are my biggest strength. They have encouraged me to do, always follow my passion. I started my professional journey as an entrepreneur, which is against what mostly people do in 2001. While entire IT industry is more focusing on ERP, CRM, I started into supply chain. I really, kind of spent a lot of time on that domain, developed deep expertise, picked up experiences, and got an opportunity to work with very large organizations like Pepsi, Gillette, Ray-Ban, Tata Motors, etc., at various consulting opportunities. Again, rural ecosystems have always excited me. I was in crossroads in 2011 because I wanted to start something big in supply chain myself. Then I thought, why can't I bring my passion of supply chain and experience of supply chain and passion for rural to start something, and that's when I started my rural journey. But really, not able to know, what needs to be done. So what I thought is, let me explore rural. So I think almost for 11 to 12 months, I have visited more than 4,000 villages across 5-6 states, trying to understand, what exactly is rural. I thought at that time that rural is easy to understand, but it took 10 years for me to really understand. So as an outcome, I combined this passion and started in 2012. Last decade has been largely towards, building a lot of modules or a lot of, businesses around agriculture, employment, and education, healthcare, a lot of models. But I think with all this experience, I think in 2020 is when we launched what today is Hesa. So at Hesa, we are redefining the way commerce is done at rural by bringing in 3 important elements of social, physical, and digital. So that means anything and everything a consumer needs in a village has been aggregated into one single platform, which we call as Super App for Bharat, Hesa, and offered to a village level influencer or an entrepreneur whom we call as Hesati, who is physically present in a village and who is having a social influence. So this Hesati solves the problem of all consumers by offering many services, right? Be it a banking, financial, insurance, agri, import, or FMCG needs like that. So that's a bit about Hesa, and as I said, very happy to be here and look forward for the session.
Superb. So a very natural and obvious question that comes to anyone's mind, which came to my mind as well, is what does Hesa stand for? And I also looked at your tagline. You say you are going to do something digitally.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about these 2 terms?
Sure. So as I said, Hesa, the real meaning in Sanskrit is excellence. So we wanted to excel in what we do. And there are 2 coincidences as well. If anyone have watched Bahubali movie, whenever there is an hero elevation scene or something, the sounding of Hesa comes in behind. So that means he's trying to excel in whatever he's doing. It's a very good sounding, and it got caught in my mind. And when I was looking for a right name, because all these startups have this very catchy names like Oyo, Ola, Uber. So I thought, to have a very catchy name, and that's when I like this sounding. So then I referred into that naming, the way names are done, and looked at various languages and thought that Hesa has some meaning which is close towards excellence or grandeur. And another strange coincidence is Hesa stands for Hechi Hema, my wife, and SEA Sahasra, my daughter. So with all these 3 possibilities, I've named this as Hesa.
Got it.
And coming to digitally, see, when we are trying to position ourselves, because I also have to share another thing, because whenever we are trying to apply for any of these programs, incubator programs or acceleration programs 1.5 years back, you need to select which segment you are, you need to select either you are a fintech, agri, whatever. There are like 10-12 options, and then there is others. Every time I had to select others only because top 11 is what we are doing it. See, because we are kind of a multi-cuisine restaurant where we take any service to a rural. Our expertise is our last mile connect. the person who is sitting there. So that's where we thought, a person is physically sitting and he is connected through a one digital platform. And normally when we say last mile, people think that it is supply chain or logistics. It's beyond that. We are a rural marketplace, because today the big challenge is to create to where my demand is coming from rural, or where my supply is coming from rural, is a big challenge, and which we are solving. And when I thought of a good name, I thought, there is a person physically sitting, accessing a digital platform. So then combine that and, coined it as digital.
Got it. That's very interesting. And in fact, you brought up some points that actually leads me to the next question. So we understand your background. I mean, I think you were pretty well set. You could have done something else. So what was your inspiration to get into something like this? And were there any initially identified specific problems or business needs or unmet needs that you had identified, that you said, you know what, these are the things that are not attended right now and we should solve them? And so how did it work? I mean, when did you decide to kind of let go of everything and go behind Hesa?
Okay. So, I mean, see, my intense connect with the grassroots and understanding of the rural customers, their aspirations and their challenges have been a driving force all through. And this is complemented with my experience in supply chain and, strong network and connections that I have built over the years. With digital being the way of life, I had a very strong belief that, no one should be left behind. And so that's the reason why we are focusing on Indian rural families and, taking all services and products which they need. Not only the consumers, but also the businesses who want to reach out to those target consumers. Now, specific example, like this is when, people, it's easy. I mean, now it is very good to, remind what has happened in the past and, think good about it. But obviously things were very tough. So those 12 to 18 months where I was initially getting into the rural, trying to understand various things, believe me, I think the experiences are like so varied, like where, I was trying to, it's more of, I was learning, but the kind of challenges that I have seen, I thought that, okay, which one to pick up, because there are many challenges. Every time I used to go to a village panchayats, talking to those people, I thought that, okay, this I can figure it out. But once coming back, trying to figure out, looked very difficult to solve that problem. So while I was doing all these things, I realized that, I've actually, met many of these rural folks who sit at a common point, typically at a tea shop in the villages, literally doing nothing. Maybe in 2011-12, the aspiration goals were also not that high in rural, maybe. So I wondered what these guys are doing, and I figured out that one, being not aspirational is one. Second thing is the cost of information in rural is very high as compared to the cost.
Correct.
So like you and me can get things in a jiffy. Like we have Naukris for jobs, we have many things for many things, services. Yeah. But in rural, so that's where I thought that why can't I do something for these rural youth folks? So why can't we create a job alerts module in? That's where in 2012, I started my first service into rural, which is providing job alerts to the rural youth. Specific to their location, specific to their geography, what jobs they have, they get an SMS on their phone. So that's the basic service we started. And it was like, it's an instant success. We have been covered by local, social, national wide media. But, the model was not commercially viable. But in those 1.5 years, I've noticed many things. It may be a mere job information for us, but you won't believe, you get into a village, somebody brings, a complete box of mangoes or bananas, just as a gratitude, because that, it's not only you're provided a job, but, the complete family is, kind of settled, and it has a very large advantage, because if somebody is hungry, you feed them, by evening, they again feel hungry. Somebody needs clothes, you give, maybe after 2 months, they again need clothes. But if you give a job, I think their entire, family for a lifetime, at least, at a base level is set. So I think that was the first, initial point, which has really, inspired me to do many things. But over years, I also got evolved, in terms of offering many services. So I thought, rather than solving one of these problems, why can't we create a platform which will enable many others to solve? Because there are a lot of specialists, providing agri solutions or fintech solutions, be it an insurance solutions, but everybody struggles to reach to the rural. So why can't we create one such a marketplace? Is the inspiration behind. And also, thought of doing something innovative or unique, which is not there, was also an inspiration to me.
Makes a lot of sense. And in fact, because, like you said, that there are so many problems to solve, and in fact, to solve even one problem, two hands or one head is not going to be enough. So you are going to need people to do it. You are going to need some people on board to do it. Before we get into that question, just for the benefit of everyone on this meeting here, would you like to spend 30 seconds explaining what the last mile delivery means? Because it is talked about a lot, but maybe people don't really know what that last mile means. So if we can spend the next 30 seconds on that, we can move on to the next question.
Sure. So, see, again, it's a very tricky thing when it comes to the rural, because the beauty in rural is, I mean, urban, it is very low percentage, but in rural, 90%, or at least I would say 80%, the same consumer is a buyer sometimes and a seller sometimes, because he has a family where he has FMCG needs, he has product needs, he has financial needs, but as a consumer. But at the same time, if he is a farmer, he has to sell his agri produce, or if a women group member has certain artisan work, she has to sell it. So, I mean, as I said, the same persona is becoming a consumer, buyer sometimes and a seller sometimes. And now on the other side, you have businesses, a business who wants to sell their products in the rural. The ultimate goal for any business is to, sell their whatever product or produce to the end consumer. But before that, there is a lot to be done in terms of, if I have to work reverse wise, they have to set up their last mile distribution network. They have to set up their, distribution channel, and then the logistics part of it. And more importantly, creating that visibility, creating that brand recall, promoting their product, and, reaching out to the right consumer. So out of all these segments, now, why it is easy in an urban, why it is tough in a rural is the density. Let's say somebody wants to enter a pin code in a city like Mumbai or Hyderabad, where you have each pin code like 2 to 3 lakh, consumers. It's easy to target. But if you're going to a village which has, let's say, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 population, it is very, tough for a business also to, to go there. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say is the definition of here last mile are many things, but what we are trying to solve is last mile in terms of discovery is what we are solving. And then we are aligning with a lot of last mile logistics or warehousing or service, service value chains in terms of connecting the supply chain. But more importantly, let's say if a Walmart wants, let's say today, 1,000 tons of onions, their biggest challenge is not logistics. Where those 1,000 tons are there, is the major target. Or let's say a Procter and Gamble is there who wants to, let's say, sell their Ariel powder in villages. Like, who are those 1,000 consumers who are, my potential customers for my whatever product I have. So as a definition, last mile is consisting of, discovery plus the logistics plus the distribution, if it is a storage or a warehousing involved. But as far as Hesa is concerned, we are very clear that we want to be the, the discovery platform and let the business or the third parties, handle the logistics. Because if discovery is solved, I think logistics can be, kind of complemented. But if discovery itself is not there, it is very tough to, it's even tough if you have a good distribution channel also. It's very, unless you know who your customer is, it's very tough to go there. So that's how, we define last mile for us. But as I said, the same consumer is buyer and seller. So mostly our KSRPs are the last mile for the businesses and the first mile for the consumers when it comes to the products reaching to the urban to rural. Or he is becoming a first mile to the last mile to the farmer or the artisan, and the first mile to the business on the other side, if it is rural to urban.
Great, great. I think that was very helpful because it sets a context on how exactly the whole chain works. From what I have heard so far or understood from your website, it is pretty obvious that to do something like this, one has to be all over the place and there is a lot to do. So, obviously, it cannot be done by a single person. So, you are going to need partners, you are going to need co founders, you're going to need the right employees, you need the right culture set within the organization. So, as a starting point, when you came to a point that you know what, now this point onwards, I need someone to work with me, I need more people to work with me. And this is a typical challenge for most of the startups who reach the point where they know that I am set for growth, I need more people on deck, but they are hesitant to let go of what they have created so far because it is so dear to them that I have worked so hard on this for 5 years, 3 years, whatever. It is the time now to reap the benefits. I know the benefits cannot be reaped if we don't have enough people, but then how do I not keep the entire thing with me? How do I let go? How do I share and grow? How did you resolve that conundrum, brought more like-minded people on board, let go of probably your stake or share or ownership or whatever it is, and thought big that you know what, we don't want to be this all the time. We want to be this after say 3 years, and for which I know I need to bring more people, which means I will have to share and grow. So how did you deal with that? Because that is one of the biggest dilemmas for growing startups. So once they reach a point where you know it is inevitable that they need more people on board, but there is a hesitance on letting go of what they have because they have a full ownership. Going forward, that's not going to be the case.
Yeah. Okay. So I think very nice, point, especially a model like HESA, which is a collaborative model, because when forget about the team that we have. Today, by the way, we have more than 150 employees at us, but we have 20,000 plus HESAthis who are our brand ambassadors in 3 states as of now. 20,000 HESAthis reaching out to 20 lakh rural consumers. So they are also an extended team. But I think specific to your question, first of all, I'm very fortunate that my main pillar of strength, Hema, who is my co-founder and also my better partner of life. Better or other thing we can discuss on another call, but yeah. So anyway, the jokes apart. So Hema and me have started this entire exercise together, and very fortunate that initially, while we were not reached to this stage, it gave us a lot of scope, opportunity to first of all know each other in terms of how we are working in the business, and then many times when we fall flat in the businesses, so we really could cope up because not many of external resources that are there other than few team members. So and being founder and co-founder family, so most of the ownership is there with us only. So that's the starting point. But I think the first thing which I personally feel any business while they are scaling up, the two important factors which pull the right people is first and foremost is the idea itself, because I think again if the idea is good and if the intent is good, I think right people, right resources will come in, provided a lot of hard work needs to be done. And second, an important thing is I don't know most people agree or not, but I think the founder's passion is clearly evident. And, if that flows around to the teams, that's where the real, multiplier effect will come in. And I'm thinking that at least, it has worked, both these points have worked for HESA, because any right, building a right organization, it's all about right team. And right team means, everyone should complement each other. Everyone should have a burning desire. Continuous restlessness. Sometimes people feel the atmosphere in a startup versus an established company is different. But it is not okay if the founder only has that restlessness, and it's the entire team who has to work towards that, the goal of the organization. And most importantly, what is the vision of the organization. So I think that's where I think team has to really align. And for that, I think the core leadership or the management team around the founder is very important. And yeah, it took really time. It's not an easy thing for me also. It took really, a lot of time. Probably sometimes I failed, sometimes, it worked, but it's a continuous exercise. We can't do much about it. But I think the right leadership team who understands the vision is first important. And more than that, I personally feel that the mid-level team, because they are the layer between the top management and the ground level staff. If the mid-level team, that I always believe that build a good mid-level team, because they are the ones who will become the next second level, leadership team, and they can actually drill down whatever the vision of the organization to the grassroots level. Because with many moving parts trying to progress this entire vehicle of startup, it's only the team which will contribute to success. Hope I have covered most of the
Yeah. You absolutely have. And because you are in this space, and I think you did not encounter that scenario, but hypothetically speaking, had you been at a point where you knew that you needed a co-founder, maybe you were not married then, and to bring a co-founder on board, definitely you have to partake with some stake and get people on board. How would you have dealt with it?
See, again, I have faced those situations, if not in this Hesa, many places, or during these stages also. See, the thing is, again, it's a very tough call, to take it, because, when we are talking about the founding team or the founding team, it's very important for the team to have the right passion towards their and the organization's main goal, which they wanted to, drive around, because everybody has at an individual level have their own aspirations or goals, but collectively, what is that they are bringing onto the table is very important. And that's why a lot of places, you find, disturbance or problems creeping in between the founding people. Again, as I said, it's trying to gauge what the other person is in terms of not only from other side, but what you also can complement each other. I think that understanding is fairly important. And other than that, I think again, it's not a secret formula thing. It's a little trial and error only. But again, somebody gets it lucky first time, somebody fails. But I think our previous learnings also helps us to do that. And I think I would have dealt it the same way in terms of taking this approach of finding the people who are equally passionate or complement with other skill which I have. So. Which I don't have, sorry.
Got it. Excellent. So let's get into a slightly difficult part now, because I think that is what adds a lot of value to everyone who's on this meeting, to learn from the difficulties. So because we cannot talk about your entire story, what I think might be interesting to know are the top 3 challenges you faced when you actually incorporated Hesa and you embarked on this journey. So between that and today, what were the top 3 challenges you faced?
Okay. So again, my last 10 years of working in rural itself is the most challenging thing. I can't even explain sometimes what we have gone through, as an individuals, in terms of trying to sustain in this entire market with a lot of, competition, or with a lot of external factors moving around. Not getting into details of, those kind of, issues, be it a financial issues, or be it, a model which we have launched and, it would have not scaled or being successful. There are many challenges, but predominantly, when I was trying to build, Hesa model, the big challenge that I have faced is, last 10 years has been largely physical first and digital next for us, because we were doing largely physical activities. So from a mindset of a physical first, digital next to a digital first, because the way we need to scale now, or the way we are scaling, it has to be through a tech enabled platform. So I think the complete mind shift of being that organization itself is a radical thought, because when you are a physically trying to establish organization, you have the revenues or the margins or the profits coming in from the business which you reinvest. But in this kind of a model, there has to be a substantial capital, because continuously you need to build the tech enabled platform, do a lot of pilots, scale across, and then you are whatever EBITDA positive or whatever you call in the financial terms, so it comes in. So that, first of all, that shift of the thought itself is the first challenge which we have faced. The first thing is. Second thing is, again, this is where it's a challenge which has actually worked in favor for us later. Initially, the challenge is to convince people of this model, because how will you do an agri services versus a fintech enabled services with an insurance with a FMCG product? So my last 10 years of rural experience has taught me one thing, that rural India needs a sector agnostic marketplace. That's where real challenge is, but that's where real opportunity is also there. So if we can convert the challenge into an opportunity, is what I kept on telling to myself. So to convince people about the model of creating sector agnostic marketplace, and not only external resources, my own resources, my own teams or co-founder, or to the external world, or to the investors, or to our ground level staff or the Hesathis. That was the second major challenge which we have faced. Third and most important thing is, I think everybody has, at an individual level, has their own personal, professional, aspirational goals, be it our end consumer, be it our Hesathi, who is the nerve center of our entire model, or third, be it our own teams. So to keep them engaged with you, and to keep them motivated enough that they stick with you, because success doesn't come overnight. So to keep them, I mean, it's still a challenge or a nightmare today also, but I think fairly we have progress towards that. So the third important point is to keep motivation across the the teams or the levels is the third biggest challenge, because especially in our model, as I said, it's a collaborative model. Until unless we engage Hesathi or the entrepreneur at a village, it's very tough for us, because our model is completely dependent on them. And to keep them engaged, to keep them motivated, to keep them enough trained or enough equipped is the third major challenge that I've faced.
Got it. And that is very interesting. I mean, because the venture itself is unique, I think the challenges also are unique. And it is interesting to know the way in which you are trying to tackle them. Now, again, because on one side, we are a for-profit company. On the other side, the problems we are trying to solve, or the unmet needs we are trying to solve, they are all related to rural, I would say, relatively underserved populations. So it is an interesting mix. And once your service or your solution or platform actually has made an impact, it has made a difference to someone while you're making money out of it, I am sure the value that you have delivered must have created some, like, I would say, like some huge highlights, some great emotional moments where maybe somebody just came to you or your team and told you that, you know what, we are so thankful that you came and you did this for us, because while I'm paying you for it, it made a big difference for us. So are there any such moments? I mean, I don't know, they can be like emotional moments, or they might be just like hurrahs from people you have actually engaged with that last mile effort, that untapped end user who probably is not being supported by anyone else or by very less people. Any experiences you want to share?
Yeah, I think especially when you are in rural, I think every day is a highlight. Every day is an emotional moment. Seeing roller coaster. Anyway, I think a couple of things. I think which strikes to my mind immediately is one thing is especially during the first phase of COVID, when there was a lot of livelihood issues in urban and a lot of people reverse migrated to the rural. And today, more than 350 of our HESAPs are the people who have reverse migrated from an urban. Earlier, they may be earning 15, 16,000 as a delivery boy or a security guard or a driver in an urban versus being a HESAP and earning, anywhere between 8 to 12, or sometimes there is a guy who is earning more than 28,000 a month sitting in a village. So I think meeting all of them, our experiences with them itself is everything is an emotional moment, because we have created an impact in terms of around 300 plus people reverse migrated, now sitting in their own village comfortably, earning a decent income which is as good as an urban income, and most importantly their satisfaction of being in a rural. I think that's one thing which I'm immediately able to think of. Other than that, there are many, because let's say there is a farmer, who has to travel. Specifically, there are certain crops where you need to travel 150, 200 kilometers to sell, because if it is a paddy, you can go to your nearest rice mill. If it is a vegetables, you can go to your nearest town. But there are specific crops, like for example, cocoons or ginger and all, where the exact market rate you won't get it at or moringa for that matter. So it's very tough to actually get the right price at the place where you are living in, and the way we have helped them to sell the produce right at the comfort of their own village level. I think that was again, many moments around that. So it may not be one, but many farmers whom would have helped in terms of helping them just at their farm gate, getting a better rate for them is a second I would think of. In terms of challenging, emotional moments, again, being in rural, sometimes the challenges may be, vaguely, difficult, like wherein if somebody would have tried selling their agri produce because of some logistics issue, it would have, it would have not delivered. In fact, there is one time where there was an accident that has happened, which is again, not in the control of HESA, it is beyond our HESA, this thing. But as we are the part of that entire ecosystem, so there are many of these, emotional moments day in, day out. But I think overall, I think the satisfying moment of today, we are helping farmers directly get their money after supplying milk to a dairy organization at the comfort of their own village. We are helping self-help group women people to, pay their interest amount for their microfinance, not going to a nearest bank by traveling 15, 16 kilometers is, like that. And recently we are working with women groups in Orissa with the support of NABARD, where we are creating micro entrepreneurs, on specific agri-related functions. So I think there are many experiences, many feedbacks. Probably, I think that that experience itself may take a one session, if we get into detailing of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what I anticipated. So, what you have shared gives a good glimpse of how it's making a difference, and that's absolutely wonderful. So now we know where you are today. We don't want to put you on spot by asking you what money you're making as of now, but in general, from a business growth or from a scale perspective, or even from a diversification perspective, what are your goals like for the next 3 to 5 years?
Sure.
Where are you looking yourself like 5 years down the line? The reason I'm asking this question is that also if you can answer it in context of the young early stage startups that are on the call today, to view things in a longer run. So when I'm doing something today, I'm thinking of what I'm gonna do 5 years down the line. So it will be great to know what your plans are, and typically how a young early stage idea should actually also figure when they are putting together their solutions, laying out their product roadmaps or their marketing strategies as to not just what we are going to do a year down the line, but say 3 to 5 years down the line?
Yeah. So before I get into the future plans, the moment you said that there are many startup founders and all, I thought the first thing that I would like to share is any model that we're trying to build in, I think it should have a very strong unit economics. There is no point in building anything which doesn't have a very strong unit economics model. In fact, the problem statement that we are solving is the unviable unit economics in rural. And if we are not having a strong unit economics, I think there is, again, no reason to create a model. So, though you have not asked, I'm sharing it. We are, break even in our business. The only money that we are spending is to expand into many geographies. So, otherwise, it's very tough to build organizations, especially into the rural. Now, coming to the future plans, the future plan is to become rural India's largest integrated marketplace, which enables ease of commerce. Why we said, we redefine the way commerce is done in rural, because it has to be very easy for any consumer to do any transaction. So we want to enable that ease of commerce, thereby aggressively contributing towards national building at a scale. Other than this, I envision Hesa, as an enterprise which leverages technology and human capital, most importantly, to connect various stakeholders in the ecosystem, making rural commerce viable. So, in terms of specific numbers, we want to create 2 million livelihoods in the next 5 to 7 years down the line, and more than the financial valuation or the financial value that we get as a for-profit business, the underlying socio-economic impact that we are going to create is one thing which we are consciously want to build it. If we can create 2 million livelihoods directly impacting 10 million livelihoods of their families, and then in next 5 to 7 years down the line, they create many more livelihoods in the rural, it's really going to change the way the socio-economic situation in rural. And adding to that, most importantly, rural money rotates in rural only. So, and that does making the rural economy stronger. So that's our future plans.
Got it. Before I dive into my last question, I just wanted to request everyone on the call to put in any questions they have in the chat window, so that Yogesh can take those questions after we are done with the interview. We will park some 15 minutes for any ad hoc questions. So let's keep 4:15 as a goal to close this call. So anyone has questions, just type those in. If you don't type those in, we can even open up the channel and get those live. Cool. All right. So last question, and I think this question can be very appropriately addressed by you, because you have both in your family. You have academicians as well as you have an entrepreneur. So from your experiences, and I'm sure you know what your folks do when they are at their colleges or universities, you know what you do when you're at your startup, and there is a great blend over there, and I'm sure you guys have conversations around these during your lunches or dinners. So if you have to give some practical insights into what minor changes can be made to the way in which the current pedagogy works, especially in, say, higher education, say technical education, or in management courses, that aligns the learning activity or the pedagogy with our goal of focusing on job creation versus job seeking. What do you think those things would be?
Okay, so again, I may not be experienced enough to answer this question, but I like to throw my thoughts around it. In fact, before we get into the formal education or the higher education, especially when it comes to the education at a very initial stages, which is the pillar for any person's thought process. You won't believe I have asked my father the same question when I was very young, with respect to let's say I wanted to become an engineer at the time. Then I asked why I'm studying biology, why I'm studying a language which may not be of a need for me. So he actually he gave a very very insightful answer. What he said is whatever you are doing now is important for you, because if you focus on what is your today's reality, be it a student trying to get a good grade, or be it a student who want to make it a very good sports person, or whatever, at what stage you are, try to focus on what is there in front of you. So I think that was the thought process which my father has inculcated me in my earlier days. And that's why when a lot of people say that we have to drastically change the way education system and all, I mean, yes, there has to be slight modifications and changes needs to be done, because it's more importantly, if you are assigned with a task at any point of any point of time, how well you come out of that, how well you achieve that, is what is the need for that, is what he has said. At that time probably I didn't understand, but I realized in my later years. But I personally feel when it comes to inculcating entrepreneurship or many things, I think the first thing which I feel is how to we all would have learned that it's the survival of the fittest, but as a subject we have heard it, but survival of the fittest in terms of real practical knowledge, because that's why today we see many people trying to start something, it doesn't work out, either they go to extremes or they go easily leave it. Because irrespective of whatever situation comes in, I think everyone has to focus on being survived, and that's what I did. 10 years, how many times I would have thought internally to myself that I think this is my last day, I would leave it and go back to what I'm doing. But I think that you need to come out of that. I think that's where like डर के आगे जीत है. So I think that's where really you need to inculcate these things. Like how do we inculcate through some practical things, through some experiential things, is where I think we need to do that. Goal setting is another thing, because that's very important. And another thing which ideally, I mean, I think if I were taught, or I would have had that bent of mind, is strong fundamentals of finance. So because I had to really learn it in a tough way. I think after I lost it only I learned the value of money. So very good knowledge of financials, at least a basic, if not a detailed masters of the finance. I think these things. And when it comes to starting something innovatively, I think we need to inculcate how to think, how to bring the right curiosity, how to bring the right instincts, and imbibe towards starting something innovatively. I think these 3-4 things is what I feel, because irrespective of whatever we do, I think if we are very good at basic financials, how to survive, how to set a proper goals, and always having that right instinct and curiosity to innovate something is what I personally feel. Again, I'm not an academician, so I cannot, maybe I may be right, wrong, but I think this is what I feel.
Got it. I somehow feel you're playing it safe because of your background, but still, whatever you spoke about, I think that gives a very different angle as well. That it is not just about changing the course content, but it's more about whether we can bring in some kind of a mental conditioning even at home or in our colleges or in our schools that makes students mentally strong. They always feel supported, that if they decide to go behind something, they will have their parents or teachers or both or someone else to back them up if they fail for the first time, so they can retry.
Yeah, I think you put it in a appropriate way. Yeah, I think something like that. And as you rightly said, mental conditioning on various things may not be no need to change the content, but the way we see the content or the way we approach it, has to be kind of looked at differently.
Got it. Got it. Excellent. I think I have taken the majority of the footage, so I'll open it up for the audience questions and answers. Yogesh, if we want, we can start with the GH Raisoni management team if they have any specific questions, and then take any questions on the open forum. So over to you.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Rohit. Thanks, team. So we are open for questions. Any question from GH Raisoni management?
Sir, actually they have written in the chat box. I can see some questions in the chat box.
So Vamsi, you can directly take the question from chat box.
I'm just seeing, yeah.
Just mute yourself. There's some echo is going on. I don't know what's the issue.
Yeah, there is some noise coming in.
Can you mute yourself?
Yeah. So I could see some questions. So how you build your initial team? Okay. So again, as I said, there is no say a straight secret formula to do that. But not from the mere point of having a team to showcase is not important. I think we should have the right team members. Experience doesn't matter if the right mindset is there and the right approach is there. And especially it also depends on what stage you are. If it is at a very initial thought process stage where then it's very important to build to bring in someone at that stage. Or if you are from a tech background, I think you need to bring in the business guy, or if you are vice versa, depending on what your skill set is and what stage you are. I think once you are at a right market product fit, I think that's when you need right executors who can actually execute the idea. Because I think as Rohit has started his entire conversation with this, because anything without a right team, you can't deliver. Maybe you can create that initial traction, but it's all important about that very initial team, and you should be really choosy and really careful, because it's your baby, it's your thought process. So you need to spend a lot of time on hiring or recruiting the right initial team. If you are building on a very good tech enabled product, I think the first thing that you should look at is to bring in a very good, if not the entire team, one good tech resource who understands your thought process, and then able to create that tech platform as per what your thought process is. Can sir please explain what is unit economics? Okay, I think see, unit economics again is whatever is your business model, whatever is your the unit in which you measure. Like for example, in our case, let's say you are operating at a district level, and you define your unit as a district. Or if you are operating at a product level, like wherein I have 3 products where each product is 1 unit for me. So the unit economics here is depending on what unit you are wanting to measure your success, be how you get your net revenues, or your GMV, whatever your business is. So unit economics is to have a clear understanding about what the cost it takes for creating that unit versus the revenues that you can generate from that unit. So this is where you have a lot of these metrics of cost of acquisition of customer, the lifetime value from the same customer. So let's say if for you a cost of acquiring a customer is 1,000 rupees for an example, and if you can get, let's say, an average 10 times the buying the orders from the same customer, I think that's when you have a healthy LTV, or the lifetime value versus the cost of acquisition. But unit economics is fundamentally what is the unit at which your revenues are coming in, and how the comparison of your cost versus revenues. And if you are positive, that means you have a very strong unit economics model. What things makers? What things? I'm not able to understand this question. What things makes sir to go for Hesa? You want to join Hesa, or I couldn't understand if somebody wants to join Hesa. I think we are also looking for right.
I think she is asking कि आपको क्या motivate करता है Hesa को continue करने में.
Yes.
She's asking for motivation. Like, what
Ah,
motivation you're getting for Hesa?
Okay, motivation. Okay, I think as I said, I think to create the largest rural tech platform and to directly okay, I think this is where I would like to answer this differently because rural, especially the way it works is whatever the smaller or the larger impact, you can feel it at that instant moment itself. Let's say you are enabled somebody to do a transaction, it's instant. The satisfaction on their face is instant, the gratification is instant, the value that you're creating is instant. So I think to create that and to experience those on a daily basis is one thing which is motivating me for Hesa. Was it difficult to choose your first 10 members? Vamsi. Okay. Again, Samir, as I said, there are many factors attached to it. It's tough. I mean, I'm not saying because right team only can take your model, to the next level. I think this is where you need to spend time meeting a lot of people, understanding, trying, taking a lot of positive, negative feedbacks, and that's when you need to construct. And again, there is no one formula or one method to do that. Sometimes you may fail, but I think how quickly you learn from those failures and correct yourself to build the right team is more important.
Right.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Samir, Ashish, Srijan for asking the question. So anyone have a question, he can unmute himself and directly ask the question. So that's great. I think, Hiroyuki, you were...
Yeah. I would like to just propose a formal vote of thanks on behalf of GH Raisoni Institute of Business Management and on behalf of Institute Industry Interaction Cell of Raisoni campus. Sir, I can't thank you enough, Vamsi sir from Hesa, for taking out your valuable time. Sir, thank you so much. You have created a great impact and your impact is instant, sir. As you rightly said that you wanted to create an instant impact. Uh, I do agree that there are very few students in this session, but believe me, sir, it was the feeling was like as if we are attending an offline session. Your interaction was such a live that we were feeling that हम लोग सब एक ही साथ बैठ के बात कर रहे हैं. And we had a very great experiential learning session, sir. Believe me, it was really a great session. And I can't thank you, Rohit sir, enough for taking out your valuable time and coordinating this event. Yogesh Tavde sir, Sitish Chaudhary from MAGIC for coordinating this event. And we are looking forward for more such wonderful interactive talks from Hesa sir. Vamsi sir, again request you, please, if make it possible to come and visit our institute offline at any time, because we really want to create that impact, the live impact that you have created now with only the 30 to 40 multiple. We want to multiply this effect more times. Thank you once again. I can't thank you enough, Rahul Trivedi sir, for opening the session, Rahul. And thank you all the faculty members, students across who have joined from different parts. Thank you once again. Yeah.
Thank you, Jyoti ma'am, and definitely I would like to visit your campus and and really looking forward to interact.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Jyoti ma'am. Thanks, GH Raisoni for collaboration.
Thanks, guys.
Sure. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, Vamsi.
Take care. Take care. Yeah. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
thank you, sir.